Hey, everybody. Welcome to Inner Circle. It's good to be with you guys again. We're going to talk about land development today. And we got some really awesome people in our community that are doing some awesome things with land. A lot of our members are flipping land now, which is a great way to create active income. Others are buying land and developing. Some are building spec homes. And others are doing some other things. Trevor, can you talk real quick about what you're trying to do there with your duplexes? I'd love to
Yeah,
catch up with you on that.
yeah. So what I'm doing, each deal that comes across my desk, I'm looking at it, reevaluating. Instead of a flip that I normally do, I've been looking at the more new construction deals. Um, because for me, it's been easier
Easier,
and cheaper than the actual rehab. And not to say I'm giving up the rehabs altogether, but for me, it the last build I did start to finish, it was actually 3 months.
wow,
So a full gut took me about 9 months. The last one I did.
right?
Um.
You pull your hair out
So
doing it.
yeah, I did. I think hair's finally growing back from a year and a half ago. So
So tell
um.
us what you got going on these lots with these special use permits and these
What?
duplexes.
Well, those lot that lot actually, I'm trying to. It's like a quarter block in Churchill. And the church owns the rest of it, so I'm trying to see if they want to sell the rest of it. So it may change, but I was looking at it and I did the zoning letter, and by right, I think I could do four, but with the density plan and Richmond 300 map, I was reading that and doing a little bit more research. So I'm gonna um have Mark submit the requests, the plans and everything to go through for 5 duplexes. And it's more so about, you know, that I don't know if you saw about a month ago, Daniel had a meetup with one of the council women
Yeah, I saw it.
there. So I met with her, I talked to her, good conversation. So, I was telling her what I was trying to do. And, of course, it was just, she gave me her card, personal number. So we've been communicating. So it's just one of the things of, hey, let me see I'm trying to, the potential obstacles, I'm trying to address it now then versus later. So basically, it was a lot that, they said I could actually do 4 single family houses, but I was like, hold on. But what if I do, if I break it up, do 5 duplexes, but from the side they just one door, so it looks like one single family.
Right. So are you gonna, if you're able to do that, are you gonna sell the duplexes or keep them?
No, I'm gonna keep those, and what I'm gonna do, and I already started looking at some other rentals, potentially um selling those and keep the new duplexes and rent them out.
Sounds
Um,
like a good idea.
or some of the rentals I have, I'm actually evaluating the land use on it too.
Hmm. Okay.
So, and that's another thing I'm looking at. What's the best use for the land? And,
Love
you
it.
know, if I pay it off, how bad would it hurt if I tear it down and then rebuild two, or how many I could get out of it?
Okay. We're gonna talk about by right today and a whole lot of other stuff on land development with Lisa Engelhardt. How many of you guys have met Lisa before? She's a good personal friend of Cheryl's and mine. Her and her husband Shirley live in Deltaville, Virginia, where I'm at today, and just always a real giver and a wonderful person. Now, Lisa, what Trevor was just talking about reminds me of what you were saying about rehabs versus new builds just a couple weeks ago.
I don't rehab anymore. No, no, no. It turns my stomach, actually. It does.
So, take it away, Lisa. You were going to talk a lot about land development today, and I really appreciate your jumping on. Trevor mentioned by right, and I know that's something you're going to talk about today as well.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing to do is by right because I don't have to go through red tape. Well, I don't have to go through a lot of red tape. I actually have a slide, Jim,
Take it away.
that I can share. Um, it's nothing fancy, you guys. It's just something that I put together. if I can.
Lisa lives and breathes land development, guys. And she's got a lot of land and she is developing and she is building. Her and her husband Shirley are building right now. Whoop, there we go.
Can you see that? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it's a beautiful dog.
that's my little sidekick. She goes with me everywhere. So let me see if I can get this into where it's a slideshow. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm
You're good.
not real savvy with. Oh, I think this is probably in Google Drive. That's why. Okay, so can you see the whole screen, Jim?
Top of the screen in the middle, it says slideshow. Just click on it. Right over the left edge.
Yeah,
of the
okay,
slide.
see it. I see it.
Yeah, right there. And then from beginning over on the left, it says from
Okay.
beginning. There we go.
There you go. Thank you. Okay. So I have been, just to give you a little bit of information about me, if we've never met before, I have actually been doing land development for 22 years, not full time. I started out actually taking land deals to developers, and that's how I've learned a lot of what I know today. And a lot of it is learning on my own, making a lot of mistakes. I've made my share of them, honestly. And so that's how I get better each time. I don't know everything about land development. I don't claim to. I just know enough from experience that I've had doing this myself. I've been building homes for 20 years now. My husband Shirley has taught me everything that I know about new construction. So I have been very active with that over the years. I've been a real estate broker for 22 years. I only list my own property and I use my license to buy property. I don't actively sell real estate for anyone or I don't work for buyers. My first deal maker was in 2016. I was so nervous being there. It was called a investor boot camp at the time. It's the same thing. Jim just transferred it over to the deal maker name. But that really changed my life. I met a lot of really good friends. Probably the second and third time that I attended them, I haven't missed one since 2016.
Wow.
I have built a lot of relationships, and that has been really the key to my success, honestly. I grew up in Richmond, a little town 10 minutes from Richmond called Verona. It was the country. It still is kind of, but it was a little hidden secret in Richmond. That's where I grew up. And for the last 2.5 years, I've lived full time in Deltaville. I had a summer home here and we moved here full time, and I don't look back. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. This is the peninsula. We actually live on the peninsula. Jim is on this same peninsula. So it's one way in and one way out. Everybody kind of knows everybody,
What a
which
beautiful picture of Stingray Point. Oh my goodness.
when you do land development and when you build in small communities, you have to have good relationships with people because in a small town, word gets around. So you have to have really good relationships. It's not like being in the city of Richmond or working with the people in the city of Richmond in the city hall. So let's talk about land development for a minute. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So it's not easy, but it's very lucrative. It takes time. You have to have a lot of patience. You have to have a very well-written contract with contingencies to get you out. I'm looking for a way out. I don't want to be stuck in a contract that I can't get out of and I have to buy a property. So I always give myself usually a couple of ways out. You have to have a trusted private lender. Some of you may not believe this, but I'll show you in this case study that I'm doing. I don't have any money in the deal except my earnest money. I borrow enough money to develop the property, and I'll show you that as we go along. Okay, the next one, you have to be able to pay your engineering fees. Those bills come in. They don't wait till the end when you get your money. Those bills are constantly coming in every month based on the work that was done. I had a project back in 2008 when the market crashed. I still have the land, thank goodness. I didn't lose it. But I was in the process of developing it and I was 80,000 in on the engineering and had to walk away from the deal and tuck my tail and just hold out on it. I still own that property today and I'm getting ready to do something with it now. So you must be able to figure things out. One of my favorite words is figure outable. It applies
I
to
didn't
everything
know
in
that
life.
the engineering fees could get to $80,000.
Yes. When you start doing the surveying and the soil work and going to the county meetings to do the rezoning and the special use permits, yes, it can get very expensive because every time the phone picks up from your engineer, it's like talking to an attorney. You're on a clock, and it can get pretty expensive. So you have to be able to figure things out. Jim knows that's like one of my favorite words. These are like my best friends, my best friend tools. I live by the GIS system. If you've never used the GIS system, every county, city, municipality has one. And you can also pull like layers. So I can see wetlands. I can see streams. Those are red flags for me, flood zones. And these are really, really important things to know because you can pay your engineer to tell you this stuff, but I like to do, this is part of my due diligence when I'm looking at a piece of property. I'm automatically, going to the GIS system. I'm looking at the layers. I'm doing measurements because there are setback requirements. So I'll get into that in just a few minutes. I also rely on the county tax records, the MLS that I have access to. And I also sometimes refer to Zillow because I'm in an area where I buy property where it's in between two MLSs. And actually the MLSs are starting to share data as of October 1st. That'll really help me out a lot. And I'm always looking at the zoning ordinances. Now, this is funny because you think, looking at a zoning ordinance, you look at it one time, two times, and you think but I can tell you, as much as I look at these zoning ordinances, I pull them up at least 2 to 3 times a week, literally, because I'm always thinking outside the box. A lot of the times you focus on one thing and you can't see the forest for the trees. So if you go back to that zoning ordinance, you're like, wow, they allow me to do accessory dwelling units which I'm already familiar with that in certain zonings, but you might have different ideas. Like I'm at the point in my career where I'm branching out to do multifamily. So I'm looking heavily into my zoning because I like to do things by right. I don't like a lot of red tape. Been there, done that. I try to avoid it. And what I mean by red tape, y'all, is when you start getting into rezoning, where you have to have planning commissioner approval, board of supervisor, or city council approval, public comment is allowed then. Not everybody is for what you want to do. So I try to focus on what I can do with my own property. And I like to kind of take that lead on it. The one of the things that I've gotten out of is city development. I did pretty well in the city. I ran into a lot of hiccups on a development that I did that was it ended up being 2 rehabs and 6 new homes that I rezoned and developed and built. It was very, very challenging. Some of the people on this call, on this Zoom, are familiar with that project that I'm talking about, and just a stream here we're in Virginia, so we have very strict laws, regulations when it comes to waterways, and it can really kill your deal. It can delay your project. When that's what it did, my 1.5-year project turned into almost 5. And luckily the market, the home prices went up. I did very well, but it could have been a disaster all over a ditch that had some water in it that I had to prove was not a creek. And I had to prove through Army Corps of Engineers and Development that it was a hand dug ditch for drainage. And it wasn't even on my property. It was behind my properties. So that can pose a lot of challenges. That's part of development. So I like to do by right, minimize the red tape. So what I mean by right, if you know what the property is zoned, that's the first thing you need to know. If you're looking at a piece of property, is it zoned residential? Is it zoned commercial? Is it zoned both? We have very flexible zoning ordinances in a county that I do most of my land purchasing in. And so here's an example. If I know that it's zone, what the zoning is, I can go to my zoning ordinance and I can look under permitted uses, see at the top permitted uses. Everything listed right here by right, I have the right to do. I don't have to get permission from anyone. I do have to submit a plan of development application and get my engineer involved with what I want to do, depending on what I want to do. If I do, you know, 2-family, not a big deal. But if I start getting into storage, that's a little bit different. I have to do a plan of development, but it's by right. So the planning commission is going to, not the planning commission, it's done administratively. The administrator of zoning is going to review this, comment, help me out, whatever I need to do, whatever they want to see, and then they sign off on it. So it's not very difficult. If you get into what's called minor subdivisions right here, which is what I do a lot of. For example, this particular zoning allows me to take a piece of property, and then we're not talking about 1 acre. Like for instance, let's just take 6 acres as an example. They will allow me with a minor subdivision to subdivide that property into 6 lots. There may be some minimum road frontage requirements. There may be a minimum acreage requirement. Depends on the county, the city that you're working in. For mine, it's very, very easy for me to do this. And that's what I look for. I invest in areas that want my business and that are easy to work with. A lot of rural counties are pretty relaxed on that, and compared to like trying to develop in a city. So a lot more things to go through. But as you can see, you know, just this particular zoning allows me to do quite a few things. Now, this particular zoning does not allow for major subdivisions. So I may, if I'm planning on doing a major subdivision, which I tend to stay away from because I don't want to build roads. I don't want to do curb and gutter. You know, it starts cha-ching. That kind of stuff starts adding up. I stay small. I choose to stay small because I want to do by right. I want to get in and I want to get out. Some of the zoning, like Trevor was talking about earlier, the counties and cities call them different things. Special use permit, special exception, that's what this is. Special exceptions, meaning this, if I want to put in a dog kennel, which I'm not, but I'm just saying, if I wanted to put in an animal kennel, I would have to take my plan of development to the county zoning administrator, and they would tell me what I would have to do, what the requirements are. And actually in the zoning ordinance, the requirements are actually listed. But I always like to go face to face with people. I like to build that rapport with them. And that's what I've been able to do over the years. So I like to sit down with somebody face to face and talk to them about it. And they will tell me what their thoughts are and what I have to do. Now, on a special exception, it has to go through the planning commission. That means public comment. They post it in the paper. They post it on their you know, the county website. They invite people to come in at the monthly, it's on the monthly agenda, and people can comment about it. They talk about it. You have to get up, or either your engineer, and a lot of times I just use my engineering firm. I'm there if they have any questions, and I've had to answer questions, but they actually do the presentation for me and get it through zoning. Once it makes it through the planning commission, if it passes and they agree, then it goes on to the board of supervisor meeting, usually the following month, or the city council meeting, whichever you're in. And it's presented and they discuss it, and they also approve or deny it. It's also open for public comment. Now, you know, there's a big thing going on in our county with solar. And people don't want it here, so they show up. If there's something that they don't want, they are on it. They are telling each other on Facebook. You know, we had another situation where somebody wanted to put in an upscale mobile home park on a waterfront property. Well, the zoning requirements here will not let manufactured homes be in a minimum of 1,000 feet from any water course. They really don't want them. So that's been a big deal in my community because people don't want it. They feel like it has a stigmatism. They don't want it. So they will fight you on different things if they don't want it. I try to stay away from that. Here are some more special exceptions, the rest of that. As you can see, major subdivisions is one of them. That's anything more than 6 lots. So if it goes beyond 6, that's when it falls into a special exception. You'll see multifamily there as well. And one of the things that I do, and one of the things if you want to get into land development or if you're already doing land development, is I've really had to hone in on where I want to invest. Who wants me? Where is there a need? What are my obstacles? Is there water and sewer? I go to the planning meetings, go to the board supervisor meetings, get to know people, and they'll know what you do, and you'll have a much more success with doing what you want to do. And Jim, interrupt me anytime if you have any questions.
Well, we have
'Cause
a
I'm
few
just kinda-
questions, so just
Yeah.
let me know when you want to take
No,
them.
let's do it now.
Okay, let me look back up here. If you have a question, type it in. Somebody said, like, how do you find an engineer? That was one.
Okay, that is very critical. I have recently had a very, very bad experience with an engineer. Moving an hour and a half from Richmond, we bring all of our subcontractors here when we build, but I was trying to find an engineering firm that was close because my engineering firm that I use regularly is not even in Richmond. They're actually west of Richmond, but it's actually like a 2 hour and 15-minute drive for them. So they really don't want to come unless it's a big project. So I was trying to find an engineer. I found a firm that was pretty well known in an adjoining county or 2 counties over from me. And they have actually, it worked out real well in the beginning. And when it got down to my building process, it became a disaster. One of the things that I will tell you is most of your actually all of it, when you need to go to the planning and zoning department. A lot of this you can do online. If you go online, you can look at the case studies. You can look at the cases that are coming to actually be heard at the planning commission. Go through these cases and look to see who the engineering firms are that are on the applications. I've done that before and it works. You will see repeat ones. Now, when you're in rural areas, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You are going to have to do that research. You can ask the county officials. They can't recommend anyone, but you can actually say, hey, who are you seeing come through here a lot? They'll tell you.
Yeah, and ask
They'll tell
other
you.
people that are doing some building or developing. So what all does your engineer do?
It depends on what I'm doing. So for a development, one of the first things that I do is after I do my soil work is if my soil work passes the test, I then go on to my engineering firm. Now, it depends on if I'm subdividing. It depends on if I just need a survey. It depends on, if I already have a survey, but I may need it verified and I may need the site plan meaning the house plan that I want to put on that lot placed on that survey as a site plan to turn into the county. So there are many different things that the engineer will do. An engineer will also take you through rezoning. They'll do the whole application process for you. They'll tell you what you need. You work very closely with them. I try to do as much as I can to evaluate these deals because it saves me money and I don't have to spend money unless I know I'm going to go through with the deal.
So mostly it's like survey. You do this after you know your soil's good and it'll perk and all that. And then
Yes.
you've already got the survey, but then you send them like the plans and they place it on the survey.
Yes.
So your people doing the digging for the footers know where to dig and all that.
Yes. All right. So I'm doing a 5-lot subdivision now
That's awesome.
in my neighborhood. Okay, so for instance, I did lot line adjustments on that property. So I bought this property that was 8 lots. It started out as 7. I bought the corner one, made it 8, but the lots were small. They were 50 by 150. In this area, houses, some are close along the waterway, but I didn't, long story short, I didn't want them that close together. So I made them a little bit bigger and I went down from 8 lots to 5 lots. And some of you might be going, that's money lost. Yes, it is, but I have to drive by this every day and I want it to look right. I want it to look good. My name is on it. My husband's name is on it. And we are, we want to make our community better. So we made this into 5 lots, and part of the reason is I held off on these lots on this development for 2 years because water's already here, public water, but sewer was coming, and so I waited because we have to pay like 30,000 for engineered septic systems. That's like the thing now. It's 30 to 35,000. Some people are paying more. I'm averaging like 30,300 per septic system. They used to be 15,000. So since COVID, everything is like doubled. But I was waiting out for sewer, and then the sewer whole project got squashed. So I said, I'm not going to keep sitting on this land. I'm going to go ahead and proceed with it. So I did some lot line adjustments that required an engineering firm to come in, and I had to draw out how I wanted it done. I worked with them and they made it happen. That was also based on my soil work because I wanted to be able to have enough room for my septic systems and then where they didn't interfere with the other lots. So once I did that, now I have a survey on each lot. And now I'm ready to go and apply for my building permit. So what I have to do at this point is I send my house plan to the engineer per lot, and the setbacks, they already know the setbacks. That's what an engineer does. They know the zoning code. They know the setback regulations. So when you hire an engineer, you're hiring a professional who does this for a living. But I can tell you from experience that always, always, always
Double
check
check.
behind this engineer. And Leon Johnson
Any
told
other
me one time,
contractor. Hey, I used to be an engineer, but
I know,
not that kind of engineer.
not that you weren't a civil. Yeah.
Without it, that I was not civil at all. But no, I mean, everybody's capable of making mistakes. So yes, double check.
And I remember Leon Johnson telling me one time a couple years ago, he's like, always read the deeds and the notes and the documents that your closing agent is preparing because he has found a lot of mistakes in his. And I'm like, oh, I've trusted them. I signed them. I signed them probably too fast, not anymore. I don't do that anymore. I haven't had any problems with that, but I'm just letting you know that an engineer can really mess things up for you. I had a situation happen. I can't go into much detail about it because it's probably going to end up in litigation. Or unless the insurance from the engineer pays it out. But for any of you that are building, Trevor, I know you are. For any of you that are building, what I can tell you is that when you go to have your footing pinned on your foundation, you either need to meet them on site or make sure you understand how that is being pinned. And when it's pinned on the lot, all you're seeing is a bunch of flags. And I pay that engineer to do that job. That's his job. His or her job is to pin that footing exactly where it needs to be on that lot so that the footing contractor can come in and dig and pour that footing. And then that engineer comes back and pins the brick points for the brick mason. And I had an engineer, my husband has had some health issues, so he has not been out on the job site. He had to have surgery. So this engineer pinned 2 lots, and one of the lots he pinned backwards. He pinned the house facing the septic and the back of the house facing the road, and I didn't know it. So let's just say that we got it all corrected. I lost a
Thank
month.
God you caught it.
Yes, I lost a month. I got it corrected. The engineer did not cooperate. Let's just say that. Blamed it on me, but it'll if it goes to litigation, I have all the documentation, whatever. But just my point is, I hire professionals to do the job, and you have to go behind them. because they do make mistakes. And I looking at a whole bunch of pins and flags is not what I do.
To do, it's hard to do.
Hmm.
Lisa, what about, you mentioned you like to have two ways out of your contracts. What kind of contingencies do you like that are broad, like painting with a broad stroke that like, if it doesn't perk or you can't get whatever, then you're out?
I do a soil study for 30 days and basically a feasibility study for 30 days.
That's pretty
Sometimes you
open,
can't
isn't
get
it?
30 days, and sometimes I need more than 30 days. It depends on the project.
So how do you word your feasibility? I mean, that's wide open, like if it's not satisfactory, I'm out type thing.
Yes, I have even put in there the number of lots I'm trying to get. I don't want to overkill that because I don't want the seller to think that, gosh, she's going to get this many, that they see dollar signs, right? So I have to be careful there. But a line that I like to use, if for any reason the purchaser is not completely satisfied with the study period, then the purchaser has the right to terminate the contract and receive his earnest money deposit in full with no other further obligations to the seller.
I like it. You guys like
And
that?
that gives me my out.
Very simple contingencies, but very powerful. Because you
You
don't.
have to
gotta be
word it.
adaptive.
Don't leave a gray area there. That gets you in trouble. No gray areas.
I like it. Okay, continue on.
So here's an
Is everybody tracking with us? Do you like that? Keep posting your stuff into the chat and your questions. That's great.
So here is an active development project that I'm working on right now. Now, I like to buy a block. And I'm kind of spoiled by that Richmond City property because, all of the builds were on that block, the whole left side of the road, except for Kevin Randizzi's real estate office was the only building on that road, and everything else on the left-hand side was mine that I got owner financing on until I went to go do my builds, and then I build with private money. So I got very spoiled with buying the block. So I like to buy a block if I can. This particular, most of the deals that I buy are off market, but I have bought two deals on market. So you guys may really want to pay attention to this because there are deals that you're probably not paying attention to. This particular deal was on the MLS for, I don't know, like 40 or 50 days. And I looked at it, turned my nose and went on. Looked at it again, and I'm kind of famous for doing that. I look at stuff and then I'm like, nope. And then I go back, wait a minute, wait a minute. So I have to figure things out in my mind, usually in the middle of the night. So this lot, it's actually this block 55 up here, but since it's so distorted, this is an old map. Let's focus on 54. This is actually what my engineer gave me to focus on 54. All right, so believe it or not, this subdivision was developed in 1888 along a waterway. And it was built to be a town for the watermen to bring in supplies and for the town and to do work in this town. So it was a working town. It's comprised of 3.38 acres. And obviously, as you can tell, the lots are very tiny. They don't fall into the subdivision ordinance that came out in the 80s. So these would be considered non-conforming lots. That is actually a category in the zoning ordinance are these type of lots that are non-conforming, meaning that they were developed before the subdivision ordinance, so they have some grandfathering to them, okay? So the first thing that I do is I go to the GIS map. I've actually got this pulled up on a GIS map, but it's not on this screen. I should have probably screenshot it. But first thing I do when I'm evaluating this is I'm going to go to the GIS map of this property. And I'm going to look for flood zones. I've learned a lot about flood zones, and I really don't, I kind of stay away from them. Okay, so the other thing that affects us in Virginia is called the Resource Protection Area and the Resource Management Area. They have to do with waterways, and it's part of what's called the Chesapeake Bay Act. So they really do affect your development. These are critical to a development. It's too much for me to go into right now. I would bore you if I did, but I can tell you that they do have a lot of regulations that come along with them. I look for creeks, I look for waterways, and I look for wetlands. Now, this GIS map has a layering feature that will show me what's RPA and what's RMA. RPA means that I have to be 100 feet from the creek, the stream, any kind of waterway, wetland. I have to be 100 feet minimum from that waterway. Resource management area has a little bit different criteria. That's what happened to me on the Richmond City lots. That development ended up being in an RMA, but it came with a lot more red tape and regulation that prevented me from building more than one house at a time. I know that's for another another day. All right, so the next thing that I do is I go to the zoning ordinance. Like I said, y'all might be playing on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm reading boring zoning ordinances, and I'm going through, I'm going through the notes from the planning commission if I missed it, or the board of supervisor meeting if I missed it. I'm looking to see what they talked about, what got said, who contested what. So I'm a little bit boring at nighttime when I'm during my downtime. I'm looking at stuff like this.
I don't think
So
it's boring at all. Christina said, how do you decide what you're gonna build?
how do I decide?
Start
I'm
with
getting
the
ready to get to
zoning,
that
right?
right now. Here you go, right here. This will answer the
Good
question.
timing, Christina. Thank you.
Yes. All right. So in your zoning ordinance, remember I was talking about the type of zoning? This is going to tell me my minimum lot area, my setbacks, okay, my rear yard, it tells you everything you can do with it. So this 78 lots, they have a minimum 15,000 square feet for the lot. Then you have the width has to be 80 feet. So see, you've got a lot of different criteria that you have to work with this. It's not difficult though. It's not anything challenging. You just have to figure it out. So and your engineer helps you with this too. But my main thing is I'm looking at that minimum lot square footage. And I'm going to go to the next slide. Let's do the math. Now, I learned in real estate in 2002 when I got my license that 1 acre equals 43,560 square feet. That's probably the number one thing I always remembered from getting my real estate license. So I immediately took the 43,560 and I multiplied it times 3.3 acres, and that gave me the total square footage of that 3.3 acres. And then if I take that 147,232 and I divide it by that minimum, remember the minimum square foot for the lot requirement is 15,000, and that gave me 9.82 lots. Okay, so I've got a 9 maximum lot that I can do by right. So I know that if my soil comes out right, that by right the county will approve. They have to approve. They can't deny me 9 lots. Okay. So if I can get 9 lots, this is Jim, you were talking about the study period. Now on this particular one, I used my regular MLS contract. I'm a real estate broker, so I have access to that. I usually have my own contract as well. If I'm buying off market land, I do have my own contract. But here I did my 30-day study period, 30 days soil study. Now, let me tell you what I did and why I put, if you look at number 10, I put on there for 5 septic sites. This particular property was listed by actually a well-known real estate investor in the Richmond area. One of his people listed the property, and they put on there that this property would that we could put 5 septic sites here. They were very they didn't really get involved in this a lot. So instead of telling them that I wanted more, even though I knew 9, right? I knew that I could probably get 9. This real estate agent had in the listing that potentially up to 5. I didn't question that. I knew I could probably get 9, but I didn't want him to know that I could probably get 9. Does that make sense? They wanted 5, so I made it 5. 5 septic sites would have worked for me, but I was able to get 9. So I didn't know it at the time. I did 5. I didn't really know if I could get 5, but I knew 5 would work for me. So I moved on. I hired my soil engineer. This is a different engineer from that did the the lot consolidations. So if you look at the top photo, all that land to the left, that wooded area, the whole thing was wooded. That's the 3.3 acres. There's a house to the left of that tree that faces the other road. So I always go on to job sites. I'm very active on my job sites because I have not been actually in the woods, and I like going in the woods. I'm only going to do it one time, but I'm going to go in the woods. I'm meeting my engineer. This project is very important to me. I'm hoping that it works. I'm hoping it's not challenging because most everything that I do is pretty challenging. So I go into the woods, I meet the guys there, and this is what I find. I find on one of my lots that I can actually see the water. This is a pretty active waterway, saltwater waterway. I
Nice.
can see it. I can see it from this direction as well. But I can also see what's on the property because I have to be able, if I go through with this purchase, I have to be able to get rid of all that trash. You see all that trash that ended up on the property? There was an old bunkhouse there, and this was the lot closest to the water. So we learned a lot of debris that had to be removed. Luckily, it's no tires or environmental issues. But I like to go on site. They actually bored about 12, 15 holes on different lots. And it was looking really good. I'm very pleased and very proud of this project because every single lot my engineer was even like stunned over because it had the most beautiful soil on the entire parcel. There's no wetlands on it, and they are all conventional septic systems. So my septic systems are about half of what I normally am used to paying for them. I like to ask a lot of questions. This is how I build my rapport with the guys, the engineers that come out. And so what they do is they give me a preliminary on the soil, and then I go to my engineer. Now I've hired my engineering firm. They're going to go out, they're going to survey all of this. They have to do a preliminary survey of the whole project. And as you can see, this is a preliminary. That is going to change. It ended up being 8 lots, but I'm going to end up getting the 9th lot in another couple of months. We have to go a little bit different route. But the engineer actually looks at all of my title work. So I get the title work from my real estate attorney, and then I share it with my engineer who's assigned to my project. And he's very, very thorough. He has figured a lot of this stuff out. So we had some challenges. We had title issues. I just bought this year. So I did a lot of legwork on this because some of the title work I didn't feel like was being done properly. So I spent a day at the courthouse going through some of the records and figuring it out. A lot of the lots were mislabeled. So if I go back, you can't really see it on that one. Over, let me see here if I can move this. Over past lot 9, where you saw the picture of where I was standing, where I actually saw the water. That lot is has more lots beyond it, and nobody knows who they belong to. Not even the county. They don't have any idea who they belong to. They were questioning my engineering firm. Well, who do those lots belong to? Well, we don't know. A lot of the lots we found a mislabeling problem with the GIS system. So my engineer, actually on my dime, worked with the GIS guy at the county to try to straighten out their lots. It's just something that is part of the development. This normally you don't have these kinds of issues, but they can come up. The neighbor's septic system is actually on one of my lots. So over here on lot 1,
Seen that happen a few times. Did you give them an easement or how did you get
I
around
haven't
it?
done anything with it yet. I told my attorney I just wanted to give it to him, and he said I was being too generous. So I haven't addressed it yet. He wants the subdivision map recorded first and then address it. I mean,
I know this is awful, but I know somebody who had that happen and the people like disabled the septic on him and they had to get an outhouse. Now,
I could actually do that, but
isn't
here's
that
the deal.
crazy? You
It's not their
wouldn't.
fault. It's the way that, and I'm going to show you that in a second.
Okay.
You look over here to the left of lot one. You see those 4 lots and then 4 lots. It's 8 lots total. I don't actually need the lot. It's not hurting me. I don't need the lot that their septic's on, but it is deeded to me. It's deeded to my LLC. So and this is what happened. If you look right here where I talk about the let me see, the title issue. It's part of the title issue. They numbered the lots. Okay, this is what I was trying to get to. See where I've got up there copy and paste over and over? This is what's happened. The title company and the attorneys, since this went back to the night to 1900, believe it or not. They
Oh,
copied and pasted the legal description on all of the lots. And these are that map that I showed you in the beginning with had showed 78 lots. That was correct. The county GIS is wrong because they were going by what these title companies and attorneys have copied and pasted when these properties sold. And this particular block that I bought has only sold 3 times. But they copied and pasted it. So the lot numbers were wrong. So that's how I ended up with this guy's septic system. It's because the lots are mislabeled, but they are what they are. I typically own, I mean, I own his septic system. So we're going to figure that out after this.
run it,
I've
Phil.
almost gotten my final approval.
All right.
So I had to buy a road. I had to buy a road. I bought a road for $5,000. I
Huh.
control the whole road. I don't have to get anybody's permission. They don't have to sign my building permits because I now own the road. Technically, if I didn't buy this road and because it's not in a public road, I would have to, not owned by the county, I would have to get the private road owner's signature on all my building permits, giving me permission to access my property. It's crazy.
So then you got to have a road maintenance agreement as well.
Yes, that's being designed, that's being developed now. And I'm also putting in a few restrictions
Oh, good.
because I'm trying to control, not much, but just I'm trying to keep the community nice.
Hey,
So what happened on lot nine is lot nine, if you look down to the right, actually they're not showing it on this little clip. It's actually a little piece of it is in what's called the RPA, meaning it has to be 100 feet from that water. So this is what helps with having a brilliant engineering firm. Rather than that be held up because of that one delay with that one lot, my engineering firm said, Lisa, what we're going to do is we're going to go and get them to sign off on the 8 lots, and then we're going to address the 9th lot with them. We're going to let them know we're going to do that, but we're going to get them to sign off on the 8 lots. And then after they sign off on it and you record the subdivision, we're going to deal with the 9th lot. Now, part of the 9th lot means I just have to put up signs stating that it's an RPA on that lot. And I just can't be I think it's like 10 feet. So I am going to be able to use that lot. I just don't know. They might they might require a few more requirements. And I have to decide at that point if the money that my engineering firm that I have to spend with them is worth it. I think it will be because these lots are, these lots, I haven't really come up with the exact figure yet, but it's between 50, some are selling for 75,000 each. I don't know if these will. This is probably a C area. Their houses are selling for like 350. It's not a bad area. It's
are you going
BC
to sell
area.
these lots, Lisa?
I am
Yeah.
still trying to figure that part out. But here's the deal. I ended up because I'm going to cover that in 1 minute, Jim, as I wrap this up.
There's
I
probably some
paid.
builders on Zoom today that would like to buy. Anybody? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm going to show you what my options are. That's what I love about development. So I paid 120. I'm going to give you my numbers on this because I know everybody in dealing with building and development, people want to know these numbers. So I paid 127.5 for it. I renegotiated it to 122.5 because I had to pay 5,000. I negotiated the road for 5,000. I'm not really happy about owning a road, but I can control it. So I got the seller to come off for 5,000 so I could buy the road. I solved their title problems. They were in a big hurry to close. I typically don't close on land until I get county approval, but since this was by right, they drove me crazy to close. And they're in another state, so they wanted the money. They inherited the property. All right, so for some of you that don't believe that you have to have your own money to do this, to do what I do, because I used to have a big mindset problem. I used to think I couldn't do this because I had to have my own money. All right. On May 28th to 2024, I closed on this property. If you look up here, I paid 122.5 for it. Look down here where my loan is. I borrowed 155,000 because I needed my engineering fees and I have to improve 200 feet. I've got to extend the road 200 feet to get to my lots. So the road's there. It's in great condition. It's gravel, but I have to extend it. So I'm borrowing my development money. I have a very good relationship with my lenders that I met at Dealmaker. Every Dealmaker I go to, I've met them on some of the cruises, and when I used to go to
You
Mississippi
use
for
a private money
events.
lender for that?
Yes, I use it. I paid them 2 points. So that's why you see my settlement charges so high. I had legal fees of almost 2 grand in this, and my attorney actually did me a favor because he had a lot of time tied up in all these title issues.
Well,
So
remember,
my principal,
next time you need a private money lender, Lisa.
I know you always tell me that. I'll take you up on it, Jim.
I'm
But
just-
I borrowed 155,000 from one of my trusted lenders. And if you think about this, y'all, our lenders, this is really about relationships because this
Not
is raw
everybody,
land.
not everybody lends on land.
No,
I'm not a big fan of lending on land. That would
but
do.
I've done deals with these people for over a year. They pool their money together. So I have a really good relationship with them and they trust me and they know I know what I'm doing and they know that I'm going to come through with it. So I got back 25,000 at closing. I put down my only investment in this is I put $1,000 earnest money into it. I did also receive a $4,900 commission here because I was on the buying side and this was one that I
This was
bought in
on
the
the
MLS.
MLS?
Yes.
Nice.
So the investor that owned this didn't want it. Some people don't want to do land, or if maybe 5 lots wasn't enough for him. But I got 9 out of it. I have eight definite, but ninth is looking pretty good. So I paid 2 points to my lender, and I got that money back. This is what I love, love, love about land development. I can, what decision am I going to make here?
So
What are
many
my
exit
options?
strategies, right?
Yes, plenty of exit. If I sell 3 lots and I'm on the minimum side, I'm on the conservative side because I'm on the lower end of what I can get for these lots. They're all conventional. They're all going to have a well. This is well and septic. Great area. It's in the one of the #1 growing counties in Virginia. So
Which
I can
one?
sell New Kent. I
Nice.
can sell 3 lots and I can pay off my private lender. I can build on the 6th, and the 6th will be free and clear. And I borrow private money to build too. So I can build homes on the remaining 6. I can sell all the lots and walk away and keep the profit. I can build on all 9 lots and readjust my $155,000 loan over 9 lots. Okay, yeah, there's a way to do that too. I can build all of them and sell. I can build all of them and rent. I don't have any restrictions here. Not on these
So how
lots.
much did you say a lot is worth? Once subdivided and ready?
These lots will sell anywhere from 50 to 75.
And how much would a house sell for once it's built?
I'm looking at approximately 1,500 square foot houses, new, 350 and up.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, I just had a comp across the street
I know.
actually. And all it takes is one, and this is why I like buying a block.
Build your own comps.
You build your own comps, you sell the first one, and then you take it from there, and now you've got your comps. It works. It really does work. So that's the case. That's all I wanted to tell you on this case study.
I like it.
This is just one, and they can be very lucrative. So, in all honesty, I'm leaning more towards not building as much anymore and just doing the developments and selling the lots.
Well, let us know if you start selling some lots.
I will.
There's people on Zoom that would have interest. Jane is saying, is there access to any water or just a water view?
It's water view, Jane. They don't have, they can go around probably 3 miles to where the boat ramp is.
Nice. What a great case study. Did you guys enjoy that? We're getting great feedback to you, Lisa. Thank you.
Well, it helps to see a real case study because there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. You see the finished product and you think, oh, they made all this money. Well, you don't see what happens to get there, what it took to get it there, what you had to spend to get it there. I may have to put a little bit more into this deal myself because of the extra engineering, and I'm good with that. But I do like to try to go in without it because I can use my money on something else.
Okay. We got a lot of questions coming in. Do you want to take some?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead and put your questions into the chat or just unmute. Got great feedback today, Lisa. I don't know if you can see the chat, but thank you, everybody.
I'll do the stop share.
Oh, there we go. Hey, everybody. Most people are asking about the water. Is too close that it would flood, Lisa? It's not, is it?
It's not in a flood zone. I wouldn't have bought it if it was in a flood zone. I would have stayed clear of that because if you buy in a flood zone, it depends on the flood certificate. It has to be elevated. You have to elevate at that point, and it does cost more to elevate. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what I could get the land for, but I typically don't buy in a flood zone.
So I want to just go back to the beginning because you knew like the total square footage of the land combined. And then you knew what you could subdivide to. And that created the whole deal, didn't it?
It did.
That by right, you knew the size you needed for a house based on and then you know the size of the house based on the setbacks and things. There aren't many new builds at 1,500 square feet. They're pretty easy to build a house that size. That's like the size I was building myself in Florida. They're pretty easy to do.
We always build small. We've built bigger in the past. What I like about building small is there's such a great need for it. And also, if things go south like they did in 2008, you can rent that house easily. Today, well, if you think about back in 2008, we had a 1,500 square foot house with a 2-car garage, brand new, and I was scared to death because I couldn't sell it. I couldn't. Can you believe that? I couldn't sell that back then. So I had to rent it, and I didn't like doing that. Things change. I mean, here it is 2024, and I was scared back in 08 of not being able to rent a 1,500 square foot house. So I play safe on that because I could rent these all day long if I need to. So I always like to have a backup plan. That's why I like building small.
And your best use for these is just to build single family homes, right?
Yes.
You gave the example of your duplexes earlier. That was really good as well. Anyone have a follow-up question? We've taken a bunch, but you can just unmute and say hello. Or whatever's on your mind. Ron, you've had a lot of really positive comments today. Thank you.
Jim, I got
Go
a
ahead.
question for you. This is for you. I got a project I'm trying to build in Indianapolis. I need a private lender.
Okay.
I cannot talk to you about it.
Well, I don't know if I would lend in Indianapolis or not, but you guys should have my contact anyways. But I'm going to put it in the chat. And I'll give you guys my cell phone, but text me because I'm not good about answering my phone from people I don't know. If Lisa calls me, I'm going to take Lisa's call. There you go.
All right.
Okay, AK said, is there such a thing as a short-term rental for a tiny house for fisher people who could access the boat landing 3 miles away, or is it too risky for short-term rentals right there? Lisa loves tiny houses. She didn't even go into her passion for all of that, AK, so I'm glad you asked.
There is a need for it. You just have to make sure that the county will allow short-term rentals and accessory dwelling units. Some are restricted, like for instance, this county where I actually have these lots, they will allow ADUs, but it can only be used for a family member. Now, I don't know how they regulate that. I don't know. I can't imagine DNA testing, right? But who knows today? But that is some of them do have those requirements, and that this particular county where these 9 lots are, do have that requirement.
And keep that in mind, because one of Lisa's favorite things is to build a 600 or 700 square foot house and then a 400 square foot ADU behind it. I mean, the numbers are a little off, Lisa, but
Mm-hmm.
isn't that something you've done quite a few times and loved?
Yes, and it depends on the regulation. So for an ADU, I can only do 50% of the main dwelling as an ADU, but I can't go over 800 square feet. So yeah, I like, and I can't tell you the people that want to rent those. They do want to rent them.
And you could be creative on those. It's a whole nother Zoom, but you could be creative and breezeway in between if you need to, right?
Right. And that becomes 1 unit. And then you can do your ADU. There's a lot of different ways.
And you
A lot
can
of different.
rent them both short-term rental. And by the way, tiny homes are sort of a unique space on Airbnb. Oh, that's a whole nother Zoom, maybe next quarter, Lisa.
It's a whole new Zoom.
Did you guys enjoy this today? Did you learn a few things, take some notes? Lisa, they're asking if we can put your PowerPoint into our Facebook group. Is that okay?
Yeah. It actually has another case study behind it. I'll take that out and then put that what we covered today in there.
Send it over to me. I'll figure out how to get it there, okay?
Okay.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, where we keep on learning. How about a big round of applause for Lisa Engelhardt today?
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Lisa, it's great to see you today. Have an amazing afternoon, okay?
Thank you, Jim.
See you
Y'all
guys
take care.
later.
Bye-bye.